All right, I'm lead off. We have a very elegant division of responsibilities here. So I'm going to open up the aperture pretty wide and talk about why we should actually care about the outcomes of these projects vis-a-vis humanities, galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. So, they have some of the most important missions in society. The increase and diffusion of knowledge, Smithsonian Institution, USA. A Center for Learning, Tolerance, Dialogue, and Understanding, the Biblioteca Alexandrina in Egypt. To support citizens in the defense of their rights and encourage the production of scientific and cultural knowledge, the Arquivino Nacional Brazil. They are GLAMs, galleries, libraries, archives, and museums, sometimes called memory institutions. And I have yet to visit a healthy community without one, or meet an individual who has not been touched by one in some small way. But this evening is about turning that bet on its head and asking, can we, with our heads and hands and hearts, change GLAMs? Can everyone, working together in new ways, amplify and supersize the impact that GLAMs have in society? Can we put the tools of knowledge creation, all kinds of creation really, into more hands to catalyze research and discovery? Can we share the joy and meaning of artistic and cultural exploration with more citizens? Can we deepen engagement with the challenges that face our species? And in doing so, can we nurture the habits of a civil and sustainable society? And ultimately, can we make these changes quickly enough and at big enough scale to make a substantial difference in the lives of individuals and, frankly, the fate of our species? I hope the 3 or 4 or 5 of us will outline for you tonight in one uninterrupted chain of thought how we connect successful or super successful galleries, libraries, archives, and museums with the essential capabilities of the World Wide Web so that we can get better outcomes for society, for all of us. I have no doubt, having met and worked with these fine individuals, and some of you, that we're capable of changing GLAMs. They are, after all, just human institutions made for us, by us. The big question, the first question is not whether change is strategically possible or tactically achievable, it's whether we care enough about the institutions themselves and the outcomes they intend to have in society to make change happen in the first place. So let me begin by asserting that the work of GLAMs matters now. It matters now. GLAMs are easy to dismiss as tourist attractions, warehouses, book depots, or trophies of rich industrialists. But look at GLAM mission statements. Look at what they say they do. Look at what they actually do sometimes accomplish. And look at the problems we face on Earth today. We as a species are faced with unprecedented environmental, social, and geopolitical stresses. Let's be frank about it. Atmospheric carbon has reached 391 parts per million. And if you Google that online, you see a characteristically disturbing graph that goes like this into the oblivion. 16,928 species face extinction, including 21% of all mammals. There are 63 active armed conflicts worldwide at the current moment, and 1.4 billion people, more than the combined populations of the USA, Canada, and all of the European Union nations, live on the equivalent of less than $1.25 a day. And these are just some of the challenges of the present moment. The future is even more uncertain, and it's likely we will live the rest of our lives in an epoch of dramatic and accelerating change, even without taking into account what will surely come crashing down on us in the not-too-distant future. For example, the specter of do-it-yourself biology and advanced biotech, nanotechnology, artificially extended human life, advanced artificial intelligence, robotics, just to name a few. As Sir Ken Robinson said at the closing talk of the 2006 TED conference, if you think of it, children starting school this year will be retiring in the year 2065. Nobody has a clue, despite all the expertise that's been on parade over the last 4 days, what the world will look like in 5 years. And yet we're meant to be educating them for it. So the unpredictability, I think, is extraordinary. So, given the missions of GLAMs and the resources and attention they consume, an objective observer would reasonably conclude that we, in our societies, believe they represent a potent tool for addressing big challenges, a kind of toolkit. GLAMs are supposed to nurture creativity and knowledge creation, learning and independent thinking, civic engagement and dialogue around ideas that matter, right? There are approximately 18,000 museums in the USA, and together they spend more than $20.7 billion annually to achieve their goals. That $20.7 billion is more than the gross domestic product of almost half the nations on Earth. Societies wagered by creating and supporting memory institutions continuously and at great expense for thousands of years that they're good for civilization. That if we take them away or weaken their effectiveness, we get less learning, less enlightenment, less knowledge and wisdom, less shared experience and dialogue in our communities, and that we will be impoverished by this absence. And conversely, we wager that if GLAMs do a better job, that if they succeed, that if they have more impact, touch more people more deeply in more ways, our communities will be nourished. But the primary model we've used to convert our investments in GLAMs into civic value is an old one, based on tools and methods that enclose resources, exclude participants, and ultimately diminish outcomes. We formed our collective expectations for the performance of memory institutions, how they do their work, and the scale of impact we expect them to achieve back in the 20th century, and the 19th century, and the 18th century, and the 17th century, in the age of enduring wisdom before the World Wide Web. This was the broadcast era, and it worked the same in GLAMs as it did in government, business, and nonprofits. To create outcomes in the world using broadcast era tools, leaders needed to first hire experts and put them in an organization with offices and office cubicles and typing pools and HR and legal department. Then put resources into that organization, money, real estate, reputation, trust, mind share, precious artifacts. And then shake the box and try and get something valuable to leak out the other end. In this model, the people inside the organization, the experts, defined the problems, engineered the solutions, and delivered them as final products down a one-way pipe to mostly passive recipients. Consumers, we called them, on the other end. This was a reasonable way to work, given what was possible with the mass media platforms that were available. We didn't know we could enlist the participation of millions of individuals in any way, because we couldn't harness, let alone find those participants through television, radio, and print media. We did know we could count the number of visitors through our doors, the number of items accessioned into our collections, and the number of scholarly publications we made, and it was good. My sense is that most GLAMs were founded, staffed, and organized before the World Wide Web. Most GLAMs still utilize the broadcast model almost exclusively, and it can do a lot of good. The broadcast model gives us stately library buildings filled with patrons borrowing books, glorious museum exhibitions, research publications, coffee table books, and priceless collections of scientific and cultural artifacts. The broadcast model will continue to be important for scholarship, learning, and culture in the future. But given what we now know about the physics of the web, what it allows us to do that we have never been able to do before, the broadcast model seems like an incomplete model for accomplishing important, difficult work in society. But 3 ideas central to the work of these nice people on stage with me define a new way forward, or perhaps they define a way to break the model of the past. Joy's Law, Cognitive Surplus, and Kathy Sierra's Every User is a Hero. They illuminate the path forward. They fire a lethal silver bullet through the werewolf heart of 20th century broadcast model value creation. Thank you for that. Number one, Joy's Law. Bill Joy was the co-founder of Sun Microsystems, and he famously said, no matter what business you're in, most of the smart people work for someone else. Imagine saying that at your morning curatorial meeting. I've tried it. It doesn't go over very well. But if you think about it, for example, the Smithsonian Institution's mission is the increase and diffusion of knowledge. One of the pillars of our strategic plan is making progress in climate research and species change. There are 6,000 Smithsonian employees, but only a small fraction of them work directly on these issues. How many people are there on Earth now? 7 billion? Where is most of the innovation, the drive, the ingenuity, the knowledge, and discovery going to happen towards solving those problems? Inside the Smithsonian or everywhere else in the world? That's what Joy's Law is about. And you'll see the tenets of these assumptions displayed in the work of Will and Christina and the projects that Neil will talk about. The second idea is cognitive surplus. Cognitive surplus is the title of a recent book by Clay Shirky, and in it, Clay figures out that among the internet-connected, educated citizens of planet Earth, there are 1 trillion hours of free time every year that can be used towards some higher purpose. 1 trillion hours. Clay notes that in the USA alone, over 200 million of those hours are used every year doing what? Watching television. He says every American's had a full-time job since World War II to watch TV. I'm sorry, part-time job. That's a lot of time that can be used to advance shared goals. The third bullet, silver bullet, is a law of physics almost by a thought leader in social media named Kathy Sierra. Kathy observed that in the old days, the broadcast days, the relationship between an individual and the museum they were a member of, a kind of soap they bought, a government was, buy me, follow me, become a member of my society because I'm great. My museum is the greatest one on the National Mall. It has the biggest columns and the biggest marble blocks. She says now, because of the physics of many-to-many communication and action on the World Wide Web, because of cognitive surplus and Joy's Law, the equation is follow me, buy my soap, contribute to my cause because I help make you great. That's a very different way of approaching creating value in society, by finding and helping individuals be successful. In 2009, Kathy tweeted, "I'm your user. I'm supposed to be the protagonist. I'm on a hero's journey. Your company should be a mentor or helpful sidekick, not an orc." So, let's say you believe that these things are true. You believe that this transition from broadcast to other models is really happening, and you want to make it happen. You're a policymaker, you're a student, you're a citizen, you're a museum member. What do you do? If you looked at the actions of an individual or organization, how could you tell the ones who believe this is happening from the ones that don't? I've written a lot about the design patterns, how organizations can make these new kinds of interactions happen over the years. And I'll let you find those and read them in detail on your own. But I think I want to focus on just 5 things that can be done practically by almost anyone who has an interest in advancing the goals of society through the works of museums, libraries, archives, and galleries. What are these 5 things? The first is to think, not what can I do inside my organization to advance these big audacious goals, but who out in the world is already working on these problems? And the thing to do now, tomorrow, and next week is find those people and ask them with all humility how you can help. Rather than trying to manufacture all the outcomes you want to see in society, ask the people already working on those things how you can contribute to their success. The second thing is find one piece of information that you can share and liberate on the World Wide Web. You'll see in Will's work and Christina's work the way their institutions are methodically trying to ensure that their resources are more findable, more accessible, and through liberating and liberalizing intellectual property controls, more reusable by people seeking shared goals. The third is generate effort towards shared goals. In my own projects, I'm looking less and less at counting the number of users, counting the number of visitors and downloads, and more at how can I generate many, many hours of human effort towards outcomes I care about. Could we generate 1 million hours this year of shared effort towards shared goals? And number 4 is think about where we do want to be a year from today. If we gather again a year from today, what 4 or 5 things do we need to have accomplished, or we should hang our heads in shame? Often when I put that challenge to an organization or institution, they find it takes weeks or months, not a year, to begin making progress on important ideas. And finally, this is something I picked up somewhere along the road, and I repeat almost anywhere I speak. Think big, start small, move fast, but move. Get it done. So looking at these examples and thinking forward to the talks you're about to hear, I'm confident we can move from the exclusive broadcast methods of value creation to inclusive, scalable, powerful methods. We can put the tools of knowledge creation into more hands to catalyze research and discovery. We can share the joy and meaning of artistic and cultural exploration with more citizens. We can deepen engagement and with the challenges that face our species, and in doing so, we can nurture the habits of a civil and sustainable society. And we can make these changes quickly and at big scale so that we can make a substantial difference in the lives of individuals and ultimately the face of our species. Because this story matters now. The stakes are ridiculously high. Our fulfillment as individuals, the deep rewards of our family and community life, the future of our species, and the plight of every other living thing on Earth might quite literally depend on the next few decisions we make about how our civic institutions work and what kind of interactions and outcomes they celebrate. Thank you.